So last time, we took on some of the early bosses of Terraria and got ourselves some brand new gear. So, well, what's next? Well, if you guessed there's more bosses to fight, you would be correctamundo. So, we'll finally be delving into the evil biomes a bit more and deciding if we want to take on those bosses to get a big power spike before we face a big scary skeleton. So starting off, we're going to be heading to the Corruption, because it's my favorite, and we're going to be taking on the Eater of Worlds, which is a giant worm. In order to summon him, you either smash 3 shadow orbs, or you can use a worm food item, which is made from Vile Powder, which is just the evil mushrooms. You just take them to a crafting table and make them into that, and you get rotten chunks from the eaters flying around. What he drops is he drops more Demonite, and he also drops Shadow Scales, which are specifically the reason that you fight him, because he allows you to make new evil biome related stuff. Which, going over that stuff, the biggest thing probably that you would be fighting him for is the fact that if you don't fight the evil bosses, you can't upgrade your pickaxe. Which will get you the Nightmare Pickaxe, which allows you to mine Hellstone. I don't know if there's any other way to get a pickaxe to mine Hellstone by not fighting the evil boss. I'm pretty sure you have to do it. But, so, the Nightmare Pickaxe allows you to mine Hellstone, which is in the Underworld. Next up is Shadow Armor. So, this stuff, it's a pretty standard set of armor. It's nothing like super fancy. But honestly, the best thing about it is it increases your acceleration by an insane degree, to the fact that you're moving extremely fast. So if you're not really worrying about class armor in the early game, getting shadow armor will allow you to just fly around. And it's also just nice for traversal too. So it's a good option for just basic defense. And another armor set that allows us to be made with the Shadow Scales is the Obsidian Armor. So Obsidian Armor is the next set for Summoners. It's a step up from B Armor. It loses a minion slot, but gains more defense, more damage. It gains extra whip speed and whip range with the full set. So it's definitely worth getting. The only thing is, in order to make Obsidian Armor, you need what's called a Hell Forge, which is like a furniture item that's in the Underworld. But don't worry, we'll make a pit stop after we're done with these 2 bosses to be able to go and get that, because it's way too good to skip before fighting Skeletron. But going into the boss fight himself, how I set up this mock arena here is that I basically find one of these chasms, and I kind of just set up a bunch of platforms to be able to move around. I luck out that I get this, like, humongous super chasm in my world, so I kind of took advantage of that. But essentially what you want to do is, since fighting the Eater underground is better, yes, he doesn't do his vile spit attack on lower difficulties, but I think just fighting him underground is a better idea in general. Probably the only class that kind of suffers from this is Ranger, but they can figure out something. But actually going into the boss, so for Melee, what I decided to do, I decided to just use a very simple, I'm going to hit it with the Blade of Grass the entire time, because it is able to be poisoned, so you can poison each of the segments. And this is the kind of the gimmick of this boss, is that every single segment has its own health bar, and the only way to defeat the boss is to defeat every single segment. And the boss, it kind of just digs around into the ground, and basically what you want to do, using your mini-map, you essentially want to kind of watch and predict where the boss is going to come out from. Because if there's one spot you don't want to get hit by, it's the boss's head. The head does the most damage out of anything, at least on this difficulty. So being able to kind of move around back and forth and watching where the boss is coming from will allow you to take way less damage, which makes your survivability a lot easier. Plus also, you know, each segment that dies has a chance to be able to drop a healing item, so the more you kill, the easier it is to survive. I also want to give a mention to the Ball of Hurt. Maces are very good against this boss. If you happen to get one, I would definitely recommend using it. It's, I don't know, it's probably just as good as the Blade of Grass. Next up is Ranger. Ranger, I'm using a demon bow with the Jester arrows, and I'm pretty much using like the same setups that I have been using from before, so I haven't really been doing anything different. But once we get to Skeletron, I have changed up some of my sets, so, but mostly it's just weapons. But we're using the demon bow, we're using Jester arrows because Jester arrows are like almost made for this boss, since they basically infinitely pierce. If you're able to set up where you can fight the Eater and kind of get him to line himself up, you can pierce like through his entire body in one shot. So it'd be somewhere if you want to actually clear up a bit of the chasm to be able to get a better shot on him, that would probably make this a little easier. But even without doing that, I just completely destroy his health bar. But yeah, I'd say that definitely anything with piercing is just good against this boss. So, for once, the boomstick is not the king. It is probably not a great option for this boss. So, surprisingly, there is a boss in pre-hard mode that the boomstick is not like the best weapon of all time against. But that just goes to show how insanely powerful that gun is. Next up is Mage. I'm using the Weather Pane because I want to, and I want to show it off a little bit. This is probably the boss I would actually ever use it on. It's not, like, amazing. The problem is, I don't know how this weapon determines how long it stays, because it's supposed to stay in the screen for like 5 minutes. Or not 5 minutes, 5 seconds. But sometimes it just doesn't do that, and I think maybe it's dictated on how much damage it deals. Or maybe my perception of time is confusing, and I just don't know how long 5 seconds is, but it's weird. But I also am pairing it with the B-gun, because the B-gun, I can just fire projectiles all over the place, and they will just seek out the segments and attack them for me. So it's just a lot easier to deal with. But if there's any weapon that's absolutely fantastic for the Eater as Mage, it's the Vile Thorn. I didn't get it, unfortunately. It can drop from the Shadow Orbs, but if you can get it, it is by far probably the best weapon to fight the Eater in pre-hard mode. The Vile Thorn is made to fight this boss, and it is very, very good at it. Especially because since the segments are, you know, accounted as separate enemies, and they're all dropping hearts, they will also drop mana stars, which means you will basically never run out of mana in this boss if you are still dealing damage constantly. So it is, Mage is actually pretty good against this boss. I would recommend trying it out. And last but not least, it's Summoner time. I decided to use 4 Vampire Frogs, since I have enough minion slots. So, it's nothing exciting. It's just another Summoner sweep. Essentially, I'm just doing the same thing as before, where I'm just kind of moving around and being able to, whenever he pops up, snap him a couple times to be able to get the buff. But it's definitely, I don't know if Flinxes work just as good. I would say they probably work a decent amount. I fish for the Vampire Frog staff. I'm gonna use it, but I think Flinxes will definitely be like completely fine. I'd probably recommend against using the Hornet staff unless you're fighting him above ground, where it's a lot easier for them to shoot him. But if you're fighting him underground, I do not recommend doing that because their projectiles are going to just hit nothing more of the time. So if you're fighting him underground, use one of those melee summons instead. That'll make your life a lot easier. Our next boss is kind of the same boss, but not in this world, but in a different one. It's the Brain of Cthulhu. The Brain of Cthulhu is the counterpart to the Eater of Worlds, but in Crimson Worlds. In order to summon it, it's pretty much the same. Instead of Shadow Orbs, you're breaking the 3 Crimson Hearts. Or you use a Bloody Spine, which is made by Vicious Powder and Vertebrae, which are just the counterparts to the corruption items. It also drops basically the same thing. Instead of Shadow Scales, it is Tissue Samples. And instead of Demonite, it's Crimtane. But there are a few caveats to this. So the pickaxe that you can make, the Deathbringer pickaxe, compared to the Nightmare pickaxe, it is actually better. Like, very slightly. It's that hidden pickaxe stat thing that I mentioned before when it comes to, like, mining speed and stuff. It's just better, but I wouldn't bend over backwards to, like, make a Crimson World for a pickaxe upgrade in pre-hard mode. That's not something that I would do, but it's there. A mace is available to make as a weapon. The meatball, I don't really get this weapon, like, its existence, because, like, yeah, I guess it's the counterpart to the Ball of Hurt, but I'm not trying to make a mace right now because I can, or a flail, I guess, they're called flails. But I will get a upgrade very, very soon, and I don't need to spend resources crafting one. Like, I don't know if I really need one, because in all honesty, the next couple bosses are not really particularly weak to flails. I would not recommend using them against them. They're good against basic enemies, but not against bosses. And then also there's the Crimson Armor. It's not as, I believe it's not as offense focused as the Shadow Armor, but instead you don't get all the speed bonuses, but instead you get some health regen on top of it. So it's definitely more defense focused compared to the Shadow Armor. It's still very good. Like, I'm not gonna say like one is better than the other, because like it depends on your play style. Like, I like both, but they're not even really necessary armors to make, because most classes can find different things to use outside of the ores. But I like to mention them anyways because they are definitely easier to get, because all you have to do is kill like 2 bosses and then you probably have enough stuff to make them. But anyways, it's time to talk about the boss. So I made a very basic arena. It's literally just a couple platforms. It's super basic. I was not trying to make anything fancy. But for the brain, there's actually 2 distinct phases on how this boss works. What it does, at the start, it has these creepers, they're called. These little eyeballs that float around. And they'll fly at you, and all you have to do is like knock them back to be able to keep them away from you, because if you hit them at all, they pretty much will go back to the brain. You need to defeat all of the creepers, which will bring it to about half health before the second phase starts. And the creepers are the things that actually drop the tissue samples, similar to how the segments drop the shadow scales in the Eater fight. And then once you get to the second phase, it'll just kind of like dash around to try and get to you. So it's not particularly like super dangerous. The brain is not a very difficult boss. It also, I believe, has the lowest health pool, I think, of any boss in the game. So if you're able to output a lot of damage, this thing will die very, very quickly. So it's definitely a highlight of the Crimson World if you just want an easy boss to blast through. But going over fighting the boss, I'd say Blade of Grass is good for a melee as well. But I wanted to use something different since I literally just used the Blade of Grass. So I decided to use the Trimarang again. I think it's just a good option just because it's a lot easier to knock back the creepers, because since you're stacking projectiles, it's very easy to just end up hitting them. Not even if you're trying to hit them, but if they fly past you, they might still get hit by the projectiles returning to you. Plus, you have a lot more range, so you're not really at risk of ever actually running into the brain while it's moving around, so that makes things a little bit easier. I'd say maybe switching off to a closer range weapon in the second phase, but once again, since it's a stacking boomerang, you will always have a projectile to throw, even if you miss one of them while he's teleporting around. So honestly, this weapon's actually pretty darn good against him. But he's also just not a very difficult boss, so I guess everything's pretty good against him. Next up for Ranger. Joke's on you, the boomstick is also good against him, so much for saying that the boomstick's not good right now. But I will say, I think what I would do, and what I do end up doing, is I use the Jester Arrow idea, just like I did with the Eater, but I use the Tendon Bow, because, well, if you were playing on a Crimson World, you wouldn't have the Shadow Bow. Is that what that's called? I forgot already. But you know what I mean. The Evil Bow from the Evil Ore. But what I do, I just use Jester Arrows to, like, infinitely pierce through the creepers and absolutely remove them from existence. And then when the brain goes into phase 2, I just pull out the boomstick, since it's going to be close to me, and I can land, like, almost every single shot on him and just completely annihilate the rest of his health. So, for once, it's actually a fairly good idea to run, like, 2 weapons instead of just brute forcing with 1 weapon, because the 2 different play styles actually work pretty good. Also because it's one of the few bosses that takes knockback, so I honestly think that using the boomstick in the second phase is much better, because bows don't have a lot of innate knockback, so it's once again, win for the boomstick. Mage is up next, and I am using the same setup. I'm really trying to figure out, like, is the Weather Pane actually a semi-decent weapon, or is it actually just really, really bad? I'd say this is definitely the better boss to use it with, because it's much more consistent. Because, especially if the creepers are all in one spot, like, when during the first phase, when the brain teleports, all of the creepers go to it. So if you, like, recast the Weather Pane when they're teleporting, it's gonna be a lot easier to hit. And then in the second phase, you can kind of just keep recasting the Weather Pane to keep its uptime, because as you can see, it's lasting for a long time. It must be based off of how much damage it does, because it lasts way longer than what I thought it was supposed to. But yeah, it's more of a support weapon than anything, and then the bees will just annihilate everything else, but it's definitely an interesting weapon. And I'd say that this is definitely the better fight out of the 2 if you want to use it. But a lot of people end up fighting the evil bosses before they fight Deerclops anyways. But the reason that I did it in this this way is because, well, since people fight them in that order, nobody's actually ever using Deerclops as drops, so I felt bad and I wanted to show them off anyways. So here you go, Deerclops. Here's my kudos to you. And it's Summoner time. I decided to use 4 Hornets because it's almost exclusively a ranged boss. So I thought, well, why not? Let's just make it a bullet hell. And oh, it's a little bit ridiculous how insanely fast this boss just gets shredded by anything that has like an absurdly high DPS. Because not only does the Snapthorn just completely demolish the creepers, but they're all susceptible to poison. So they're all getting poisoned, they're all getting like mega knockbacked by all the projectiles. It's just embarrassing how fast it dies, but that's the thing, I deal so much damage that it doesn't really matter. But so yeah. With 2 evil bosses down, usually 1, but we did 2. What do we do after this? Well, we now finally can check out the Meteorites. Since they were held in stasis by the evil bosses, that didn't used to be the case, but it just recently has been updated to be that way. So you have to kill the evil bosses before the Meteorites fall. But now we can go find some meteors. Now, essentially, what you want to do is just run across your world. It's nothing like super difficult to find because it's just very simple. But I get some funky meteors because they like fell down my corruption chasms. I don't know how I managed to have this happen, but it definitely did. But for mining the meteor, 100%, give yourself as many mining boosts as you can. Grab your chisel from the underground desert, mining potion, and a food buff if you want as well. Maybe even throw on that mining armor. Just because there's a lot of meteor here to mine, and there's only one enemy that spawns, which is the meteor heads, and in all honesty, you just have like a summoner or 2 to be able to defend you. They're not going to be that big of a deal. Or just like something knock them back, but half the time I can just knock them back with my own pickaxe. But essentially, you just want to mine all the meteor as fast as you can, and as long as you have like a gold pickaxe or better, you can do this, but since you're already probably gonna have a nightmare pickaxe, you might as well just use that. But why are we mining this meteor? What's the point? Well, from the meteor. Before I go further, obsidian shield, obsidian skull. Good God, I'm getting ahead of myself. The obsidian skull is an accessory made from obsidian. It makes it so that you don't catch on fire from fire blocks. The meteor is fire blocks. If you stand on it, you get lit on fire. Don't do that. The obsidian skull is very easy to make. You need to get obsidian for hellstone anyways, so you're probably going to have some. And in order to make some, you just need to put water on lava and mine it like that. I think you need a gold pickaxe or better to actually mine obsidian. So, I would assume you would have one of those at that point. But, or you can use an obsidian skin potion. I think. I actually don't. I think so. Maybe that doesn't. I think maybe that's only immunity to lava. But the obsidian skull is way easier to get, and it makes itself into multiple different accessories, and it gives you a little extra defense. Just make one of those before you go here. It'll help you. And now we're gonna make stuff from the meteor, because I got sidetracked by something that I was supposed to mention, and then I forgot. So, what can we make out of this meteor? Well, first we can make phase blades, which are, I mean, they're almost lightsabers, but there's an upgrade to these weapons later that literally makes them lightsabers, so I can't call them that yet because they're not quite. They're just basic melee weapons. They're fairly good, but there's so many better options at this point that unless you literally have been trying to not get any broadswords this entire time, then I guess you can make one. We have a new tool available, the Ham Axe, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a hammer and an axe in one tool. Saves you some inventory space, although very shortly we will have a hammer that's just going to be in our inventory anyways. I'm trying to be positive here, okay? Make a ham axe if you don't want the extra inventory slot for the hammer and the axe for right now. We have a new bullet type, which, besides, like, the 2 we've had, well, I guess we have 3. Meteor Shot is actually pretty unique when it comes to bullets. It ricochets, which is cool. And it also pierces. So, against certain bosses that have a lot of either enemies or segments, like a certain flesh thing that we're going to fight later, that would be very good against. Or, if you want to farm the Eater of Worlds or something, you can just completely annihilate him with Meteor Shot. Or, if you haven't found any floating islands, I can finally talk about this now. It's a little bit harder to justify using the Meteor Shot strategy now, because meteors are a lot more difficult to get. But meteors, if you get a meteor shot, since it ricochets, you can actually just shoot up in the air to get, to find floating islands. Because if it hits one, it'll ricochet back down to you. So, that was a thing we used to do back in the day, but in all honesty, gravitation potions are way better. So, if you can make gravitation potions, just make those. It's a million times easier than waiting around and shooting in the air. It's a little outdated method. Next up is the Meteor Armor. So, I'll discuss this later, but I've been really rattling my brain and trying to think of what's the better armor at this point in the game between Meteor Armor and Jungle Armor. And so Meteor Armor, it gives you more damage, and it also lets you be able to use, I believe the gray, is it the gray Zappinator? It's one of the Zappinators, which you can buy from the Traveling Merchant. And also the Space Gun. You can use them with no mana, so they cost 0, which means you can have 100% damage uptime, which sounds good. So, I don't know, if you use a different weapon, then probably not, because, like, the mana that you'll have from the Jungle Armor and a bunch of other stuff is very good, but also the damage, I don't know. It's very confusing. It's a very difficult thing to choose, but I don't know. It's honestly, it's up to you what you want to use. Either something a lot more like nice to have with infinite mana, or if you just kind of want to have a more interesting build, I guess. I don't know. But speaking of the Space Gun, it's a very standard magic gun. It just shoots a laser. It doesn't have any drop off. It has good velocity. It's very basic. It's just good. It's like the first magic weapon here that doesn't have like the world's slowest projectile, so we can actually shoot stuff with this. So it's finally taken so long to get. And the last on my meteorite checklist here is the Star Cannon. So the Star Cannon it's definitely a gimmicky weapon to use. So the stars are fallen stars. You know, the ones that you get at night, you use them as ammo. They have infinite pierce, like 100% infinite pierce. They have no fall off. They go in a straight line. And they do a ton of damage. But you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but they're fallen stars. Like, that's probably relatively difficult to get a lot of. And you'd be pretty much right. But, I don't know. I've got quite a few at this point, and if you just spend, like, a night farming for them, especially if you get, like, really lucky and you get, like, a meteor shower, but you're not always going to have that. But I will say that the Star Cannon for the Wall of Flesh, which is the final boss of pre-hard mode, it's very good. It's just good. But if you don't want to spend the time farming all of the stars, then there are definitely better options. But I just wanted to talk about it here because I think it's cool. Now, something we want to do right now is the Hellevator. If you don't know what a Hellevator is, you probably wouldn't, because I guess it's probably not a term that's ever used outside of Terraria, because I don't know of any other game where you specifically make a giant hole in the ground that goes straight to the Underworld, so I guess it might just be a Terraria thing. But essentially, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to dig a hole straight down until we get to the Underworld. Because I mentioned Obsidian Armor needs a Hell Forge. Well, let's go get one right now. Once again, grab all your mining bonuses, everything that you can get, and just start digging. You can use Smart Cursor and just point down and just keep going. It surprisingly doesn't actually take that long. I'm not sure how long it actually took me. Maybe I'll check and I'll like time myself and put it on the screen. But it does not take that long to be able to make a Hellevator, and it's definitely worth it, especially just because of the fact that you'll usually find some caves to be able to use, which is good. But also, it just gives you easy access to the Underworld whenever you want, which is super nice. So, I would recommend doing it in pretty much every world, just because. But yeah, the Hellforge, it just looks like a evil furnace. They're pretty easy to find in these houses, so that's really all we're doing here for right now. We'll be delving back into the Underworld in the next episode, so stay strapped in because we got another boss to fight, and that boss is Mr. Skeletron. Now, Skeletron he's not super difficult. The main thing about him is the fact that he has multiple segments, but you actually only need to target one of them, because the only part that needs to die is his head. So, before you fight him, though, I make my arenas pretty basic when it comes to the dungeon. I just kind of like prop out some platforms off of the dungeon and like light them up and fight him. It's nothing nothing fancy, but it's just something that I do. And for Skeletron's drops, they're not good. Well, one of them's good, but you're not likely to get it. But also, the reason you're fighting Skeletron is to go to the dungeon, which is more of a reward than actually killing the boss himself. But so you can get a hook. You can get Skeletron's hook hands thing, which is okay. You can get his mask, which is cosmetic and does nothing. Or you can get the Book of Skulls, which is actually pretty cool. It's one of the 3 spell books in pre-hard mode, and it shoots out these like flaming, homing skulls. It's actually pretty good. It just sucks because it gets outclassed so hard by the next spell book in, like, power, and it's about as useful as the other one, so despite being a pretty cool drop from this boss, it doesn't have any time to actually really be super useful. Like, yeah, you could probably use it, but there's so many better options that you're really just using it if you want to use it, and that's literally it. But, so yeah, for Skeletron, we gotta kill the head. And his hands will kind of like rear up and fly at you while you're moving. So essentially you want to just kind of keep moving around and watching his hands, because they'll kind of dictate when they're going to move. And once he starts spinning his head around, that's when you want to lay into him and just start absolutely throwing out as much damage as you can. Because I don't know exactly how the hand AI works, but it does seem like they're at least a little less likely to attack you when he's spinning. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just seems like how it is. But I would not take that as a fact, so... But mostly just keep moving around, lay into him when he's spinning, and you'll be fine. So for Melee, I actually swapped to the evil armor, either Shadow or Crimson, depending on what world you're in, just because it's the most basic armor, and I'm kind of just using very standard armors for Melee, just because they don't get much of a chance to shine, and also because I like Shadow Armor a lot, and I wanted to use it. I'm also using the string and the counterweight because I am using a yo-yo. I'm using the Hive 5 because actually I feel like yo-yos are actually pretty darn good against Skeletron because of how he moves around. Since you're only targeting the head, like, yeah, you can kill the hands, but you don't really need to at all. Especially when he's spinning, you can completely annihilate his health bar with a yo-yo, because since he's moving towards you and you're putting the yo-yo to him, it can just keep ricocheting off of him and dealing an obscene amount of damage. So I would definitely recommend using a yo-yo against Skeletron specifically. Also because the extra range that you can get from the string definitely makes it a lot easier to deal with. It's not like it's like an end-all be-all. Like, you can definitely use like a boomerang or like a trimarang or something like that, but I just wanted to show off that yo-yos are pretty good against him, so it's an option. Next up is Ranger. I'm actually using the Pneumatic Horn because I feel like it's probably the best Skeletron weapon, at least like at this stage of the game, unless you like do like maybe like something else. Like, I think the Pneumatic Horn and the Musket and the Undertaker are all like in the same area here, where it's just like your standard guns are just really good against Skeletron specifically, because you can just aim at the head and shoot him, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to kill the head. That's the important thing. But the Pneumatic Horn, I think, has the most damage out of all three. And, like, yeah, the projectiles are a little different to aim, but it's not like it's the hardest thing to do on the planet to just slightly gauge on where they're going to go, compared to, like, just the negative bullet drop, where you can just shoot stuff when you click on it. But if you want consistency, just use, like, the Musket or the Undertaker. But if you want to just, I don't know, shred his health bar and use moderately more thinking skills, then use the Pneumatic Horn. Also, Deerclops mentioned. Let's go Deerclops. Mage is next. It's Mage time. I decided to do Jungle Armor because I couldn't make up my mind. I really don't know. So here's where I'm torn. Jungle Armor. You have 17 defense, 6 magic damage, or 6% magic damage, 12% magical crit strike, 80 mana, 16% mana cost reduction. That's what it gives you. Meteor Armor gives 1 less defense, but gives 21% more damage. And it makes it so that the Space Gun and the Zappinators do 0 mana. That's pretty good. That's a lot of damage. And, I mean, the only thing you're missing out on is the crit strike, which, yeah, it sucks, but that's just the way it is. But I'm torn, because I don't really know what is better. I guess if you're going to use the Space Gun anyways, then I think just using the Meteor Armor is the correct thing to do. But I really don't know. I don't know which one is better. I think it really is just a preference. But besides armor, I decided to get some new accessories finally, because I've decided that at this point I would certainly hope that you've gotten some stuff to be able to combine with your stuff to make better mage accessories than literally just the the flower from the jungle. So I decided to make some new stuff. The mana flower is very, very simple. It's literally just the oh my god, I can't remember the name of the flower. The blue flower from the jungle that gives you the thing. Nature's gift. There we go. And you take a mana potion, not a lesser mana potion. You need to make a normal mana potion. Which luckily you can just buy mana potions from the merchant, and you can just upgrade them like you do any other healing potion with the shrooms. So you take those and you combine them together to get the mana flower. It's mostly just a slight like convenience, because like you get some mana reduction, which obviously if you're using the meteor armor it doesn't matter, but there's some good accessories later that use the mana flower. They also, obviously, mana flower is known for being able to automatically consume mana potions when you run out of mana. I don't think that this is a good thing. I don't think this is worth using for that. Because mana sickness, when you drink a mana potion, it reduces the amount of damage you're dealing. Which means, yes, you can keep your damage uptime, but you're going to slowly but surely do less and less damage, which means the boss fight is just never going to end. And I feel like it's a bit of a trap, because people think that they need to have 100% uptime on their damage. And like, yeah, it's good, but if you just itemize your accessories for mana, and you play smart, and you let your mana regenerate, you will deal more damage than if you were firing 24/7. It's just going to work like that. So unless obviously it's the meteor armor, you're not using any mana, so you can use all the uptime. But for later on, when you're not using meteor armor, you want better mana accessories, but you don't want to use mana potions. I'll get into it later when we actually deal with stuff like that, but I'm just saying it now, it's not worth using. But I just want the 6% bonus because that's just what I want. And I have no other mana accessories. Besides the Celestial Cuffs, which are very good. I like them a lot. So you take a shackle, and you take a mana regen band, and you can make mana cuffs, which give you mana when you're attacked. Which I don't know how much mana you get. I don't know how it's dictated. I think it gives you like a bit more than how much you take. Or maybe it's about as much damage as you take before it's reduced. I'm not sure. But it basically, you take damage, you get mana back. In almost every boss fight, you're probably going to get hit by something. So I say that's a pretty fair accessory to use. And if you get the Celestial Magnet from the Traveling Merchant, you can make the Celestial Cuffs. So the Celestial Magnet makes it so that Mana Star pickups will be much easier to get. It's like you're using a heart reach potion where the healing hearts will be pulled to you from farther away, which is very, very good, especially on any boss that has enemies that drop stars. It's just free. So I think it's a very good accessory, and if you can make one, I would definitely recommend getting one. Also, if you can get the mana regeneration band by combining a band of star power and a regen band, I would definitely do that. But I couldn't get another band of star power, so I just don't have one. I'd love one, but I just can't get one. So, but yeah. The boss fight itself, I used the space gun. Obviously, I went on a moderate amount of a tangent, but I'm just gonna pretend that I didn't do that. The space gun is good. You just point at him and he dies. It's not very exciting. But as you can see, with the setup that I have, and I decided to use the jungle armor, I kind of have my little moments of downtime where I let my mana regenerate, since the more mana you have, the faster it regenerates, and then I take a little bit of damage while I'm waiting for it to regenerate to kind of give a little boost to the amount of mana that I'm getting. So that's kind of a little bit of a strategy on when you're trying to regenerate your mana while using some of these accessories. But if you just want to use meteor armor and just shoot him, then that also works. I am not going to tell you what is right or wrong. Both work. And last but not least, it's summoner time. I decided to use 2 Flinxes and 1 Hornet. I am also using the obsidian armor, so that's my brand spanking new drip. I don't have an extra minion, so I'm actually only at 3 instead of 4 with the B armor. But with all the rest of the bonuses that obsidian armor gets, I am not upset about that, like, at all. So I also I'm picking the Flinxes here because honestly, I think they are better at dealing with flying enemies compared to, what am I trying to say here? Compared to the frogs. Because they, like, bounce off of them. And because they do that, it allows them to kind of repeatedly hit flying enemies. So I think they are actually better for dealing with Skeletron. I think. And then, of course, I have the Hornet just for giggles, because I figured that when he's spinning, it can, like, lay into him. But it might be better just to have, like, 3 Flinxes and then just do that. But I don't know. There's multiple ways you can tackle this boss with summons, so you could definitely get away with a couple other ways. But now that we've defeated Skeletron, the main attraction has been unlocked. The dungeon is available, and now we can go into the dungeon. A couple things that you want to look out for while going in the dungeon, besides, like, the millions of things that want to kill you, which range from spikes on the walls that cause you to not be able to regenerate your health, to all of the water candles that buff enemy spawn rates, the fire wheels that deal damage, the swinging balls that deal damage, the enemies that deal damage. There's a lot of stuff in here that wants to kill you, so it's not exactly a very safe place, but the loot that you can get is 100% worth it. So there's a couple things you want to look for in the environment, not just the chests, but there is a spell tome that is hiding in the dungeon that is a fan favorite. It's the Water Bolt. So it's a blue book with a gold band. It'll be on these little shelves, which are just platforms with book plates on them. So while you're looking around, if that interests you, if you're playing a mage and you want to give her a whirl, then definitely look out for that. But it's not like it's like the most amazing weapon ever. Like, it's slow projectiles that ricochet a lot. Like, it's just fun to use. It's not great, but it's... I don't know. You can use it if you want. It's not like it's terrible. You also want to look out for alchemy tables and bewitching tables. So these are... I mean, the bewitching table is just a straight free minion slot, so that's just crazy good for anything. And the alchemy table allows you to, I believe, have a 33% chance when you make a potion with it, because it acts as a table with a bottle where you can make potions by it, to not consume your ingredients. So it's just a straight upgrade to what you're already doing, so that's really, really good. You can also find a new NPC down here, the mechanic, and she will sell you a new fishing rod. So if you're planning to do some fishing later on, then definitely recommend rescuing her and buying her rod. Her rod is very good. I would recommend getting it. I'm keeping that in. Also, a word of note for the drops coming from the enemies. You can sometimes get a Clothier voodoo doll. So the Clothier is an NPC that will spawn after you've defeated Skeletron. And he doesn't really do a whole lot. But if you ever want to fight Skeletron again, you can equip the voodoo doll as an accessory and you can murder him during the night and you will spawn Skeletron. So you can actually refight him. It's an option. If you really want that Book of Skulls, then I guess it's a little easier to get it, but it's not that big of a deal if you don't. But what are we doing down here? What's the point? Well, first of all, we want to get some keys. You'll see a ton of chests that are locked all around the dungeon. You'll also find these really fancy looking chests that look a lot different. I'd recommend making sure to just put some torches or something around them so that they're easier to see on the map. We come back later on to be able to find them and possibly open them up with biome keys. But that's for way later, but just keep them in mind. They're important. Well, some of them are. Some of them are pretty shit, but... So, yeah, we're looking for keys. Now, the main way that you're going to get keys is by finding the rare dungeon slime enemies. They will guaranteed 100% of the time drop a key. But you can also find gold keys in pots and also in wooden chests. So there's several options, but these gold keys are used specifically for going and opening all of the gold chests that are locked. And what are in these gold chests, you may ask? Well, first off, we have the Muramasa, which is just a fast sword. That's what it is. It's actually not very good. But it's a piece of the Knight's Edge, which means that we are now 3 out of 4 pieces to be able to make the strongest weapon in pre-hard mode. So I would recommend, if you're playing Melee, just take this, stuff it in your back pocket, and forget that it exists for like the next 30 minutes of gameplay. And then when you go into the Underworld, you'll be like, oh yeah, sweet, I remember I got this. Next up is one of the best accessories ever, in my opinion. It's the Cobalt Shield. Cobalt Shield makes it so that you take 0 knockback from enemies, which means you no longer have to worry about getting juggled by enemies and not being able to move and getting stun locked and dying. No, that's definitely never happened to me before in my entire life. But it's just really good. It's also nice because you can combine your Obsidian Skull with the shield to get an Obsidian Shield, which I think gives you 2 defense, I think. Maybe it's 4 defense. I think it's 4, because I think the shield gives you defense. I honestly can't remember, but you get defense from it. It's good. Equip it. Unless you don't think you're going to get hit by enemies, but trust me, if you think you're not, you will. It's just going to happen. Next up, we got a bunch of weapons to go over. The Aqua Scepter is honestly probably one of the most underrated weapons in pre-hard mode, at least in my opinion. I think it's really good. the constant stream of damage that it gives off is just really good against groups of enemies. It's actually a very viable wall of flesh weapon if you don't want to like farm for the best weapon to fight it with. So it's definitely good. If you're a mage and you want like insane crowd control and also steady DPS, I recommend the Aqua Scepter. It's very, very good. Switching over to Melee, we have the Blue Moon, which is that mace that I talked about, where it's like you don't really need to get a mace upgrade from ores or anything, because in all honesty, you're just going to literally get one right now. The Blue Moon it's pretty decent. Funny enough, we're also going to very soon get another mace upgrade. Don't worry, I know they're called flails, I swear. I will just keep calling them maces, even though I'm pretty sure actually only one of these flails is called a mace. I have issues. The Magic Missile's next. Magic Missile, iconic weapon, very known for my favorite thing of all time, which was playing old-gen console Terraria and the Magic Missile crashing my game because the projectiles are weird. That's the best thing I know about the Magic Missile. It's a unique magic weapon. When you click and you hold, it actually will have the projectile keep on your mouse. So you basically have almost completely free reign to aim this thing wherever you want. I don't use it like ever because I don't know. It just feels like it's a pain to be able to like have to move it around and stuff, or just clicking and flying it out isn't really as reliable as using a different weapon. It's got a lot of flexibility, but I'm somebody who just wants I just want something that works. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just lazy and I don't want to use my brain. That might be it. Back to Melee again. It's the Valor. The Valor is it's just a yo-yo. It does some extra damage. It's not really that exciting or very good. Also, yo-yos, at least at this point in the game, are not going to be super useful for anything. So I would not really recommend using this. Because, in all honesty, the yo-yos are kind of at their peak. And also, the high five is honestly probably better. Even though it deals less damage, the extra projectiles and stuff that it spawns is just better in general. So, and it's just kind of not great. Speaking of projectiles, it's the handgun. It's your Glock. It's the most gun that you've gotten besides the musket. Sorry, Undertaker, I know you exist, but please. The handgun, it's just a very standard gun. It can be upgraded very soon into a slightly better gun. That's pretty much it. But it's pretty good. It's very basic. It's not exciting or anything. It just gets the job done. It's definitely an option once upgraded to fight the wall with, but it's not something that I use very often because there's just a lot more interesting options for Ranger. So if you want to, then it's definitely there. It's easy to get, but it's not something that I would use. And last, it is the Shadow Key. Shadow Key is not an accessory, but it's just an item that you keep in your inventory, and you can open shadow chests with them. Which the shadow chests are, you maybe saw one when you ran down to the Underworld to grab a Hellforge. But they are these like purple chests that have a Underworld loot pool. So I recommend just keeping a shadow key in your inventory for when you go down there later, and opening stuff with that, which there's some cool stuff. And last but not least, I love saying that phrase so much, I'm sure I've said it about like 10 times so far in this series. It's time to talk about bones. So every enemy in the dungeon drops bones. Well, that's not true. Most of the enemies in the dungeon drop bones. I'm pretty sure dungeon slimes don't drop bones. If they do, I guess I'm a fraud, but I'm pretty sure they don't. But bones unlock probably the most quality of life thing that you're going to be able to get up to this point, which is the Void Bag and the Void Vault. So these items are actually pretty cool. They act as like an extendable inventory, where if you run out of inventory space and you have a Void Bag in your inventory and a Void Vault placed, it will pull items into them by themselves. But also, if you have any pieces, any accessories that give you like statistics or anything, pieces of the cell phone, stuff like that, like your radars and your DPS meters and anything like that, you can actually still get the benefits from them without actually having them in your inventory. If you put them in your Void Bag, you can still get the bonuses without them actually taking up space. So if you want that extra stuff, that extra information, without spending like 7 inventory slots, since you can't make the cell phone fully yet, yeah, do that. 100%. It not only saves you the hassle of reorganizing your inventory all the time, but also it's just like, why would you not want that? Plus, like I said, being an extendable inventory, it means that you can explore for so much longer. And you can open your Void Vault with your Void Bag whenever you want to check what you picked up. So it's a great quality of life item. I definitely recommend getting it. Yeah. You can also make the Spinal Tap, which is one of the very few whips in pre-hard mode, but it's very good. It's definitely shines the most when you're fighting a group of enemies. So it's very good for crowd control. And I know some people, what they do for Summoner is they like whip swap, where maybe it's called whip stacking. I don't know what it's actually called. But basically what you do is that you use multiple whips at once, because each whip, I believe, gives you a separate bonus. So by doing this, you basically stack all of the different whip bonuses together. But I'm not doing that. I am not good enough at Summoner to do that. So I'm just going to say that the Spinal Tap is better than what you have, so you should use it. That's it. And we also have the Necro Armor. So this is finally an upgrade to Ranger's armor, since we've been using Fossil Armor for every single boss so far. So it only took until almost the end of pre-hard mode to get a new one. It took so long. But we finally are here. We can finally get a new set of armor. But yeah, that's everything though. I don't think I'm missing anything, so I guess yeah. We got a ton of stuff. The dungeon opens up tons of new loot that you can get. And it's basically all in preparation for the Underworld and that final confrontation with the Wall of Flesh, which will be happening in the next episode. So until then, see you guys later. Have a good one, and bye-bye.